Incredible honor to be able to introduce somebody who I have a poster of on my wall. But we are very proud to have Dr. John Carlos with us today, a world record holder in the 100-yard dash, an NCAA champion, and a member of the U.S. Track and Field Hall of Fame. Dr. Carlos is, of course, known for more than that. In 1968, Dr. John Carlos became one half of perhaps the most famous moment in Olympic history. After winning the bronze medal in the 200-meter dash, he and gold medalist Tommie Smith raised their fists clad in black gloves in a stunning display of resistance. It was a moment that defined the revolutionary spirit and defiance of a generation. He told Dave Zirin in a 2003 interview, "You've got to step up to society when it's letting all its people down." But Dr. John Carlos was more than a moment. He was a founding member of the Olympic Project for Human Rights, an organization that made a series of demands on the International Olympic Committee for Racial Justice and Equality. He is a man who has never stopped fighting for what he believes is right. And our last speaker, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly an honor to introduce Dr. John Carlos.
Well, first of all, let me say it's an honor to be here. It's always good to come back to Chicago, and it's really good to come back with people that's feeling and looking and acting like you. I think that's what you guys represent. You know, you represent me, I represent you, so it's great to be here. To come after Mr. Anthony and David, it's a hard chore, because I think they brought a lot of fire, a lot of wisdom with their conversation. But let me tell you how I can possibly glue all this together. And when I say glue it all together, I'm talking about encompassing everyone in this room, everyone in this building. You know, as a young man growing up in New York, I didn't have any aspirations of doing anything more than what kids do. Go out and have some fun, come home, look for supper, go to school, get a decent education. That's what I wanted. That's what my parents wanted. As I began to go to school, I began to notice differences. I began to notice differences in just agencies in the community, such as the police department. I noticed that in Harlem, there were black people, there were very few black policemen. I noticed that in the fire department, we didn't have any black firemen. I began to notice how they treated black people opposed to how they treated white people in Harlem, because I was coming into Harlem at the same time that white flight was taking place. Whereas in retrospect here in 2007, we see a lot of white folks coming back into the major cities. But I remember when they left. I remember the differences to see one white man sleeping on the curb or in the gutter. We used to call him a wino then. And a black man sleeping in the gutter. And I observed as a very young kid, 8 years old, the methodology in which they used to move these people along. They would go to the white man, they would tap on the ground, and he wouldn't move, and then he'd take his stick and shove him a little bit with the nightstick, tell him, get up, move on. I watched that from my father's shop, and I would watch him go over to the black guy, and he would bang on the ground. If he didn't move, normally when you sleep in, your feet are laid up in the air straight up. And he would take that club like it was a baseball bat and ring the bottom of his soles, of his shoes. And I don't know whether you guys ever saw this happen, but individuals could be sleeping and levitate off the ground. And when they hit the ground, they're rolling. To me, at 7 years old, 8 years old, that was quite striking. I had to go to my father and say, Dad, why'd they do that? And my old man didn't know really how to explain it to me. But he told me, he said, son, keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. Look. I remember going to Adam Clayton Powell's church as a youngster. And I remember looking at Adam Clayton's father, Adam Clayton Sr., and he looked like me as a black man, or looked like my dad as a black man, and Adam Clayton Powell looked like someone different. He looked like that policeman. And I asked my dad, I said, you know, what is this thing he's talking about passing? He always made a statement about people passing. Well, I didn't know what he meant by passing. Passing on, going to God, or what is this passing? And my dad said, well, son, I can explain this one to you. That means when it's a black individual that is happy being black but can't live a black life. And I said, I don't understand, Daddy. He said, well, black people were treated so bad as that individual that you saw the police wake up on the curb just merely because of the color of his skin. He's a second-class citizen. He can't have life as it should be, as life as God presented it to all of us. He says, so his skin is fair where no one knows he's black but him. And then he crosses over on the other side of the street into the white world and he blends in. I said, well, how come Adam Clayton Powell is not blending in? He said, well, Adam Clayton Powell is a very proud black man, proud of who he is and proud of his heritage. My attitude is I want to be like him. Then I began to matriculate through school. And I began to look on the wall, and I saw a whole bunch of people that looked like Adam Clayton Powell, but they weren't black, they were white. All the great white presidents, all the great white inventors, doctors, they were all over the walls in the school. And the funny thing, this particular school, when I noticed it, was Frederick Douglass Junior High School. I didn't see Frederick Douglass on the wall. So I had an interest. I asked the teacher, said, well, where am I? And the teacher gave me some roundabout answer, and you know how they give you a conversation, and then you say at the end of the conversation, what did he say? And it dawned on me right then that this particular teacher was the dumbest of the dumb teachers that they were sending to Harlem to teach us. So they would tell me that I was creating problems because I was so stern about where am I? Aren't I someone? And I remember going home and asking my mom and dad, say, you know, I noticed that we're not recognized in school. I noticed on TV, we don't see us on television either. And I remember my mom telling me, said, well, you know, son, we're not the main characters in the movie, so we're not seen. I said, Mom, you don't have to be a main character to walk down the street or to come out of a store. You don't have to be a main character to live in society and just be noticed for being a human being. And my mom looked at me and she said, son, you're kind of young to be noticing these things. But it's hard not to notice when there's a fire in your building and the fireman runs into the building and in 5 minutes the fire is out because someone left a pot of beans or some rice on the stove and the pot sins and the smoke came. Took 5 minutes to figure that out. Well, in New York, we have apartment buildings where we have 6 bedrooms in that apartment. And I noticed that they would go through and they would chop up everything in the apartment, water hose, everything in the apartment, and throw it out the window. And then I would go out and look, and I'm looking for fire. I'm looking for burn, and I didn't see it. Right away, I ran back to my dad again. Dad, what happened? They chopped up all the people's stuff and threw it out the window. And these people that they threw, whose furniture they chopped up, were my friends, my classmates that I grew up with. And it's a thing to go home or go back to school and tell them, say, man, your house just was on fire, and they just threw everything you had in the street. These things set a fire inside of me. Something is wrong with society. I didn't even know about society, but I knew something was wrong with society. As a whole, something's broke, you got to fix it. As a young individual, you're trying to find a way, how can you fix this? Because what you're seeing is not right. I didn't have kids that thought the way I thought. I didn't have a lot of adults that see things the way I saw. But I took it upon myself to start taking note of these things in my mind in terms of how we as black students or Puerto Rican students or people of color was treated in school, how they fed us. You know, back in that day in the 60s and the 40s and the 50s, chicken was the main meal for most poor people. Well, my mom comes from Cuba. She cooked a lot of chicken. Every day we ate chicken. Chicken this, chicken that, and chicken the other. Well, in school we ate the same chicken, so we had it twice a day. But it was one difference. In school we used to eat chicken with the feathers in it. At home, my mother burned the feathers every day over that stove. I took it upon myself to go to the principal in the school and ask him, say, hey, Mr. Levine, how come we have chicken every day? And then furthermore, how do we have chicken every day with feathers in them? I call them hairs at the time. Why do we have to have hairs in our chicken? Well, there's too much chicken, they can't. I said, my mother do it every day. Your people can do it too. By that time, he pushed the button and told me to get out of his office. In other words, you have no right. Well, that's what they tell you right now today. You have no right to make us think about the good life that you have here in America. Well, life is only good for those that's making that statement to you. So, you know, you get in a situation where now you're in like this game. You don't want to be in this game, but you're in this game, and then it evolves to when you realize that this life that we live is a game. You don't want to be in the game, but you're born into the game. A lot of us haven't realized that we can win the game because they don't even know that they're in a game. That's what the problem with society is right now. They don't know that they're in this game. So I said to the principal, I said, look, man, let me tell you something. You got 48 hours. What do you mean I have 48 hours? I said, you got 48 hours to solve the problem, or I'll solve the problem. He said, are you threatening me? No, it's not a threat. It's like a money-back guarantee. Now, how do I come to 48 hours? Because when I used to get out of line at home, my old man would give me 48 hours to figure out how to get out of it with him. So I carried that to the principal. So when 40 hours came, 48 hours left. Now, what am I going to do? Organization. And I'm going to tell you a little bit down the line about organization relative to that demonstration. But organization at that moment realized that I can't move nothing by myself. I have to get as many people as I can to think like I do. Hey, man, do you like eating chicken with feathers in it? Nah, man, I'm upset about that. I'm complaining about that. Well, why don't you go get your buddies, because we're going to do something about it. Hey, do me a favor. I talked to David about this earlier, and you know, applause kind of like freaked me out. You know, so don't applaud for me, please, because I'm not here for the applause. I'm here to get the message across. But I always tell people, if you must applaud, just throw money up here, and that'll suffice, okay? So let me get this off before I forget it all. You know, I'm getting old. So anyway, I organized and I told myself, all right, fellas, what we need to do, go to the restaurants outside. In New York, we had a 15-story building, high-rise high school, Harron High School. I say, brown bag it. Bring the mad, you know, the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, bologna sandwiches, bring your food. The only ones that didn't cooperate was the Orthodox Jews. They came in, they like, we ain't into y'all thing. We bring our money to buy our lunch. We didn't want to harm anyone, but we wanted to get their attention. So they would have to swing around the turn. We have a couple of people that have convenient accidents. So after a day of accidents, then they fell in line. So we stayed on strike for 2 weeks. But every day I would go to the principal and he'd look at me and say, you're wasting your time. And how did I come about this strike? Because I realized that no matter whether we bought the food or not, they had to fix it. So we decided to fix it every day. We're just not going to eat it. So then, as the 2 weeks went by, and the principal said, well, I told you nothing's going to happen. I said to him, I said, you know, Mr. Levine, you are absolutely right. Nothing happened. So we have to go to the next level. And that's what we have to do in life sometimes. I said, let's go to the media. Let's go to the press. Let's go to the Amsterdam News and the Daily News and that kind of situation, the New York Times. Now, when you tell a person that, and they know that they're doing wrong, oh, let's deal with this, John. We can handle this. Come back into my office. Well, from that day to the day, we got great food. We got a lot of respect from them as well. Because we didn't burn up the cafeteria. We didn't start a food fight in the cafeteria. We just said, hey, man, we realize we're in the game. I'm not going to get mad at you because you threw something that shot me down. I just got to look at how I'm going to kind of act that move. Like I don't play chess, but I play chess.